we're always chasing something. What do we really want? What do we really need?
You have to do as you're told. There are parameters you have to fit, and I struggle with that because I need to ask questions and I need to know why we're doing it like this.
Not every day is a brilliant day. You know, some days are flat and they're just a bit of nothing. It's how it changes you, how it changes how you feel about yourself and your confidence. It changes your life in ways that you never imagined. Today we're joined by Joe and Amanda from the Wellness Network, which is a community interest company, which we'll find out a little bit more about what that is. But these two are quite fabulous. What you've developed is really impressive over these, I'm not sure how many years actually, but we're going to find out more about how it all started and why you guys felt so passionate about starting all this. It's truly inspiring. You really empower people and support them through a whole journey, actually, from start to finish, is the impression that I get. Where, you know, some programs are kind of, here you are, do this 6-week program or this, however, and then off you go. Whereas with you guys, it's really from start to finish, and there's support, so, you know, signposting and stuff like that for ongoing as well, because, you know, we are a work in progress, aren't we? It's not just a matter of, okay, come here and do this for a little while and then you're fixed and you'll go away and live a wonderful life. You know, that's just not reality. And social media would have us believe that you know, there's lots of quick fixes out there, isn't there? So that's what I really loved about my first impression of what you guys do. So let's hear then why did you guys start this wonderful enterprise?
So it actually started, gosh, probably about 8 years ago, as in a completely different format, and it was a networking group for anybody in health and wellness in Lincoln. And it was based in Lincoln. We had a meeting in Peterborough, we just started, and one in Grantham. And it was bringing together anybody who worked in health and wellness, needed to have a bit of support, share best practice, that sort of thing. And I started this whilst I was employed, because I wasn't having much fun in the job that I was in. And I've always been interested in health and wellness. And I hadn't long moved into Lincoln, so I didn't know many people. So I thought, great idea, start a networking thing, meet some like-minded people. Then the wonders of COVID came along, and it changed to an online, which was really, I suppose, working out how we all got through COVID as therapists, as individual practitioners. And it was at this sort of point where we met, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we'd met in person once when you very first started the network. I came to one of your meetings. And then, to be fair to Jo, she'd messaged me loads of times saying, why don't you come along, why don't you come along? But I'd always got clients or something in my diary. And when she started the online, she'd again messaged. And so I started going online to the meetings. But not long after that, my youngest daughter was struggling with mental health challenges. And when COVID hit, she found it really hard that we were only allowed to go out for an hour a day. She did have other health issues, which are immune suppressant. And so she'd got a letter from the government to say she wasn't allowed to work. So that was another thing that really, like a lot of people, I'm sure, was really difficult for her. And long story short, she had her first in-person admission to a psychiatric unit when around June, July, when we were kind of in that bit where you were allowed to move around, but you weren't really allowed to move around. They kind of chopped and changed their minds. And it was a really, really stressful time for us as a family, trying to advocate for her. And I was experiencing firsthand, and I'm only speaking from my personal experience, I'm not saying this is what it's like for everybody, but for me, the way that she was treated was absolutely disgraceful. She was 19, she was moved out of county because there was only 3 beds in the country and none of those were in Lincoln. So she was in Northampton, and then she was moved to Mansfield, and then she was moved back to Lincoln. So what we were told was going to be 3 weeks ended up, she went, I think she was admitted at the end of June, and she came home on the 27th of October. So it was months.
I'm just thinking how scary that would have been, actually.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got your child here that needs help, and where do you turn? Where, you know, as a parent, I can only imagine you kind of feel a bit out of your depth.
Yeah, no,
because
absolutely.
you need care. You need professional care at that point, don't you? And it just doesn't seem to be there.
And the thing was, she'd been asking for help for weeks before, you know, I don't feel right. And as her mum, I'm too close to her, so she won't always listen. And so we were just told, you know, well, she's not really that bad. You know, basically what they were trying to say was they didn't have the resources. So again, in my personal experience, she had to get to crisis, be admitted into a psychiatric unit, sectioned, which we had no idea what the Mental Health Act was. I'm very clued up on it now. And so we had to go through that experience. And Jo was amazing, because the hours that I basically ranted at her, but because I was sort of, I wouldn't even say challenging the doctors. I think they felt like I was challenging them, because I was curious and I was always asking questions. And my background, I know a lot about gut health and the gut-brain connection and the nervous system and things. And I think they just felt like I was always trying to be better than them or call them out, or where actually what I was trying to do was get it so that we could work together and get her home. And so one of the stays in Mansfield where she was really mistreated, I'd got a psychologist constantly telling me, well, we're giving her psychology sessions. And I was like, well, she's like a robot every time I come. I mean, she can't actually remember any of the visits that we did in that time. So how is she benefiting from that? Because if she can't remember us coming, she's not remembering the sessions, because she was constantly over-medicated. And so I started then digging deep on how much it actually cost, because she was meant to be in a priory, which I assumed being a private hospital meant that she, you know, be given good care. I have since learned that when people go out of county and they go into a private setting, even though the NHS have actually sent them there, the NHS won't share their records with the staff. So the staff receive these patients and know absolutely nothing about them other than the name.
Gosh, that's shocking, isn't it?
And so I was really starting to understand how much it cost to be in one of those places. She wasn't really getting anywhere. She wasn't any further on. And so I was kind of saying to my husband, like, this is crazy. It's like, today it would probably be more around £9,000 or £10,000 a week for someone to be in a unit. And that's with the diagnoses that she's got. If we put something together, it would cost nowhere near that, and people would be moving forward, and they don't have to get to crisis to be able to get that. So
early intervention,
is prevention, you know. So and I'd worked with private clients in that sort of way. I'd been on my own healing journey and done it myself. So I know it works. Like, if you apply the things that you need to do, it works. And so I started putting together a programme, and I had meetings with social workers, and I looked at all different ways that it could be done. And Jo kept saying, oh gosh, if only I could like be a part of it. I don't even know how that would fit in. And then this one day, I'm not going to share the language that she said on the phone. I'm just going to say that she rang me, and basically she'd been made redundant from her job with no notice. And we tell people that she said, put the kettle on, I'm coming round. She didn't. But it's a polite way of saying it. And so she came round and she said, right, I didn't want anything where we'd have to be like a hospital, where we'd have to have psychiatrists or consultants or anything like that in, because I'd seen how it had impacted my daughter and the trust wasn't there. So I wanted something very holistic. And so Joe said, why don't we look at CIC? And so on the 22nd of August, 3 years ago, the Mind and Body Programme for the Wellness Network, CIC, was born. And
I love that. I love that it's grown out of real experience, and that's what I find, you know, through my own journey and through the people that I meet in the wellbeing industry. The wellbeing industry, by the way, is really cool. You meet some really great people, and but what I'm finding is when things are born out of real experience and, you know, unfortunately often awful experience, people get to the point of anger where they say, no, I need to do something about this, where it really rises up some emotion, and the best things are born out of that. And, you know, it doesn't surprise me that that's your story, or at least part of your story, because I just think what you've created is really cool, and really you've thought about the real journey of people because you've lived it. And some more prescriptive stuff, more medical, doesn't always include that human element. And I think that without that, it's really limited the what people can gain from it, or it's short term, you know. Yeah. What were you thinking, Joe?
Most of what we do, I say most, 99% of what we do, sorry, my voice is just gone, is about getting people together, because a lot of issues are born by isolation and loneliness and made worse by it. So one thing that we really enjoy about what we do is the fact that we create little tiny mini communities, each program that we do or workshop that we do, because when people are in a room with others going, yeah, me too, I feel like that, or that's happened to me, or yes, my daughter, my husband, my son, my uncle, whoever it is, has said that that's how they feel. Now I understand better. And being able to share and talk and communicate is so important to us humans. And unfortunately, we get used to sort of hiding away. And by bringing people together, the people can make so many bigger leaps, can't they? Yeah. It's just the joy of being with others and that connection that people don't always realise that they're missing it until they haven't got it.
Yeah, and we know from the science that we do need each other. And when we have healthy relationships, obviously something that we talk about on the podcast, we're far more likely to have more fulfilled, happier, healthier lives. You know, I say this all the time on the podcast, that we're always chasing something, but what do we really want? What do we really need? You know, I loved what Nina said on was it a webinar on your website? I loved the way that she said that mental health is just really people not being accepted for their individuality, that society is telling them that there's something wrong with them, but actually there's nothing wrong with them. We just need to let people be who they are more, because that resistance to being authentic, and where our society doesn't really want us to be authentic, they want us to be part of the machine, you know. So Nina was able to put it in a really good way, that it's just that we're not encouraged to be authentic by all the messages that we receive from our culture, really.
It's such a shame, because when you're very little, you have no filter. You just are who you are. If you want to go and stick your hand in something gooey, you'll do it. If you want to rub it over your face, you'll do it. And then, of course, you then go to school, don't you? And then you're told to sit here and do this and do that. And all of that sort of conditioned out of you. And then you've got to learn how to get rid of it all again. And sometimes, unfortunately, I found out to my detriment, when one of the reasons, I suppose, why I found myself redundant was I don't fit very well in an employed role because of the same things. You have to You have to do as you're told. There are parameters you have to fit. And I struggle with that because I need to ask questions and I need to know why we're doing it like this. I won't just do it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see people who they go into school, they get moulded, and then they suddenly realise, hang on a minute, this isn't going to work. What isn't going to work for me?
Yeah. Or they have to suppress and mask in some instances, and then mental health issues start to, because we're suppressing, in some way, and anxiety and depression we know is on the increase. Because people are feeling a bit helpless, that they don't know what to do. There's so many mixed messages. So I'm sure there was some challenges, as there is in starting any business really. And I'm thinking about funding, and getting funding is an added, because a community interest company it's a bit different, isn't it? It's not quite a charity, and it's not. So tell us a bit more about that. And you have to get funding, don't you, along the way? And I'm just thinking about the challenges really that were there for you guys with that.
So a community interest company is actually fabulous because we sit on both sides. We can apply for funding. Not every funding will work with the CIC, but most of them do. So you can apply for funding for programs, for workshops, etc. It's very difficult to get funding to just exist. It has to be linked to something. But the beauty of a CIC is that we can also do paid for events as well. So it really is a case of wherever somebody is at, we can meet them with something. But having the community interest element means that we can put workshops, programs on for people who really need it, might not know that they need it, might not be financially able to pay for something, but have taken away that burden of worrying about paying for it, means they can access some of the things that we provide.
That's great, because that, exactly what you've just been saying, the importance of being able to access something that's going to be helpful and supportive. So you're really bridging a gap there, filling a need really.
Funding isn't easy though, unfortunately. And you have to fill a lot of very, very tedious, boring forms in to be lucky enough to get to second stages, and then it whittles down. And with the current climate situation in Lincolnshire now, obviously having a mayor and not as it was, there's a lot of funding pots that have, I say changed, I can't really say that because we don't know what's happening yet. It's still up in the air. There's things that were cut because of changes governmental wise. So we're in a bit of a funny situation now, aren't we, where we're having to pivot a bit more and focus on some paid events so that we can hopefully have something left to put on some freebies, if you like. We do have some funding from the lottery, which is excellent, but that's not going to last forever. But I would say of the initial challenges, funding was probably the biggest one, wasn't it, to get started?
Yeah, but I do have to say, Jo is amazing because I don't deal with the funding. I deal more with the sessions.
So I'm like this. Rather than
She does all the sort of behind the scenes, filling in the forms, although over the 3 years the programme has really actually tweaked, and there's much more that you're coming in and doing as well. So we are kind of doing that together, aren't we? And things that you're passionate about that we're seeing that people need. So and I think from the whole thing really, the one thing that is a challenge, I think for us, I think you'd agree, is that you use the word suppress. So in society, we're not encouraged to actually nurture our emotional health. And that is where mental health and physical health declines massively, because your emotions are suppressed and they're blocked. But also, I know within Western medicine and the NHS, they're trying to change their messages but their message has always been that they can fix people. So people come in and I would say we're quite blunt, as in being quite honest when we first start the sessions, in making them aware that they have to apply what we're like educating and giving them. But that means they have to take responsibility,
Sure.
like 100% responsibility. And sometimes we do get a bit of a push back on that, don't we? And, you know, well, that's going to be hard. However, when people do it and they see the difference, it quite often makes Joe cry.
Oh, I'm terrible, honestly.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that, the ins and outs really of how you help people, and hear about, you know, maybe a testimony of a success story, but also the ins and outs of the, you know, habit stacking I refer to, and the realistic element to what we're talking about here really is, you know, the podcast talks about living medicine, and I think that's what you're saying, Amanda, that these are daily practices really, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's not about a complete overhaul overnight. It's about introducing small bits,
Small things, yeah.
and your program is all about that.
Yeah.
And being realistic, you know, we talk about that on the podcast, that not every day is a happy day. We talk about happiness, health, relationships, but not every day is a brilliant day. You know, some days are flat and they're just a bit of nothing, which I find hard actually. My personality, I run on quite high energy, and so the most difficult thing, and something that I've had to learn, and still it's a work in progress, is to sit and do nothing, because I need that, otherwise I'm vulnerable to burnout.
Yeah.
So it's about the nitty-gritty daily practices and this, you know, playing the long game.
Yeah.
And how to sustain that, where, like we said at the beginning, you know, it's not a quick fix. So I guess I'm interested in what those ins and outs are, and also we'll get to hear of a success story as well, you know, of where you've helped someone, and a little bit about their journey, as much as you can share, you know, and keep confidentiality, of course. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the program and the ins and outs of that, and how that works.
So our flagship program is the Mind and Body program. In an ideal world, it's the 18-week version, because as you say, it's very difficult to change habits and take action over 4 weeks and have any effect. It doesn't work. We do have an 8-week version that we're actually planning off starting a first session of tonight, aren't we? Locally at Moreland Community Centre, and that's purely because, even though it hurts us, we have to adapt a bit for funding. If funding will let us do 8 weeks, I'd rather do 8 weeks than no weeks. But because of the way that we work and the opportunities that we do give, we hope that it's not just 8 weeks that we're with them. We're with them as long as they need us, if you like. And each session has a different topic. And when we start each new week, we find out how the guys got on with the new action that they were going to take the week before. So this is the point where most of the learning happens, really. It's, did you do that thing that you said you were going to do? If it's yes, fantastic. Everyone is totally chuffed. Well done. Brilliant. Clap, clap. Unfortunately, sometimes these things are a no, aren't they?
Yeah.
I wanted to do it. It didn't happen, or I did it 2 times out of the week. Not every day, like I said I was going to. But hey, do you know what? You still did it. Something happened, and so it's refining as to, okay, maybe we need to just tweak a little bit what you're going to do the week after, because it has to be something that's achievable. Or if you can't achieve it every day, then you can go, okay, if I do that 3 times out of 7 days, that's fantastic, because I didn't do it at all the week before. With the idea being that each time that you're successful, actually you feel a bit proud, you know, you grow a bit. And so each week as you're adding to that and you're adding that little bit extra, I'm going to do this as well this week. Or actually, I need to just do another week of what I did last week because it's not quite there yet. I'm not quite comfortable with it. And it's just teaching people that they are in control of what they do and how they can take action. And if they can go, for example, I'm going to drink a glass of water a day. First thing in the morning, I'm going to have a glass of water. I'm going to put a slice of lemon in it to make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more better for me for electrolytes and all that malarkey. And I'm going to feel great because I've done it for 7 days in a row. And guess what? That's a habit you can keep for the rest of your life if you do it enough times. And so it's encouraging people to go, right, let's not look at the whole picture. Let's just take a little step, little step, little step, little step. And before you know it, over the 8 weeks or the 18 weeks or the next 6 months, you've done 6 months worth of little steps. You can travel quite a long way.
Yeah, and I think that once you start that journey, you start to feel better. So you start to realise the benefits, you know, that there's the evidence that starts to come. And I think the thing that we don't, or I didn't certainly, you know, when I first started my health journey, I thought, well, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to have more energy, I'm going to be less likely to get a chronic illness, you know, all the things that we hear about. But what I wasn't aware of is how it changes you, how it changes how you feel about yourself and your confidence. It changes your life in ways that you never imagine. And I was thinking when you were talking there that what that is it's a process of beginning to trust ourselves, where I know something that there's a couple of things that really helped me, kind of mindset switches, if you like. And when I was listening to something on your website, it made me think about it was something similar. And I kind of said to myself, this is who I am now. It was in relation to going to the gym. I was no longer somebody trying to go to the gym. I thought, this is who I am now. I'm a person that goes to the gym. And that might not make sense, but it makes sense to me that it was no longer a decision to be made. And the more you do that, the more you start to trust yourself. You now have evidence of, I can do hard things, to quote Glennon Doyle, podcast, which is great, and her partner, Abbi Wambach. So you start to surprise yourself and start to do things that you thought you would never do. Crazy things like starting a podcast, you know. So yeah, that it's really inspiring. But I'm loving this conversation, and we're going to be getting more into this conversation, finding out more about what you do, and we're going to hear about, you know, success stories, which is really exciting. And so we're going to have a 3-part series, and that's the end of our part 1 in our 3-part series today. But make sure you tune in next week, because we're going to be just finding out how we can do this. Everybody can do this in small increments. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And try it. It's individual. We've got to find what works for us. And we're going to be talking a bit more about that this isn't prescriptive, that it is very individualized, and finding out, you know, what works for us and what feels good, you know, and we're going to be the best judge of that. So I'm excited to continue this conversation with you guys next week. So make sure you tune in next week.